All right, welcome back, everyone, to Velcia and Rule. 50 years ago today, 3 astronauts were approaching the moon in a craft with a fraction of the computing powers used by your smartphone that's probably in your pocket right now. Today, NASA is working to harness the most advanced technology to propel a new generation of astronauts back to the lunar surface and beyond. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine is here with me now more to talk about this. This is very fascinating. So many aspects to this conversation that I'm actually really excited to talk to you about. But first, let's start with the objective of what we're trying to do now in our space exploration. How realistic is it to get somebody to the moon and then ultimately to Mars?
Wonderful question. The answer is it's very realistic. I think we can do it. In fact, I know we can do it within 5 years. A lot of things have to go right, and of course the budgets have to materialize. But the goal is to go back to the moon, this time sustainably. In other words, this time when we go to the moon, we stay, and we go this time with international partners and with commercial partners, and we utilize the resources of the moon. We discovered in 2009 that there's hundreds of millions of tons of water ice on the south pole of the moon. Water ice represents air to breathe and water to drink. It's also rocket fuel. Hydrogen and oxygen, when you crack H2O into hydrogen and oxygen, that is the same rocket fuel that powered the space shuttles. It's the same rocket fuel that took Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the moon. It's available in hundreds of millions of tons on the south pole of the moon, and there is a lot more we need to learn. But ultimately, we go to the moon so that we can learn how to live and work on another world using the resources of that world so that we can go on further. In this case, we want to go to Mars.
I think some folks might be watching this, and sometimes, as a society, we get a little bit, spoiled by the fact that we've seen it and we have done it. Some people are wondering, why haven't we done this already? Why has it taken so long for us to go back to the moon, and what's going to be different this time?
So in the past, we've tried it before. In the 1990s, we had the Space Exploration Initiative, and of course, the challenge then was some people were suggesting that we take the money from the International Space Station. It became politically untenable because of delegations from Texas and Florida and Alabama, and it ended up dying. Then we had the Vision for Space Exploration in the early 2000s, which was an effort to go back to the moon and on to Mars. And at the time, the effort was to cut the Science Mission Directorate of NASA. That created a partisan fight, which of course then killed the program eventually down the road. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure this time when we go to the moon, we get additional resources that enable us to go without creating the partisan or the political or the parochial divides that ultimately have killed it in the past.
All right, so you talked about this exciting operation to go forward both to the moon and then ultimately to Mars. What is it going to take in terms of government support and private sector support? What do you guys want to see from both of these groups to help make that objective a reality?
It's a perfect question. So this time when we go, we have these commercial partners that are actually doing amazing work right now in low Earth orbit. We have commercial resupply going back and forth to the International Space Station, where NASA isn't purchasing, owning, and operating the hardware, but we're buying a service from a very robust commercial marketplace in low Earth orbit. And then we have, in fact, within the next year, we're going to launch American astronauts from American soil for the first time since the retirement of the space shuttles. And that's, again, we're going to do it commercially. We're going to buy the service, not own and operate the rockets. And now when we go to the moon, we're going to buy landers commercially. We're going to buy the service. And of course, what that does, it enables us to accelerate the schedule and ultimately save cost. And these private companies are investing their own money. And the question, why would they invest their own money? They're looking for customers that are not NASA. So there is a return for them down the road that they're looking forward to.
Administrator, I got to ask you, and not to get into the politics of this, but as you and I were talking a little bit about this in the break, you said the International Space Station and NASA relies on the international community for scientists, for help.
Yes.
It is truly an international effort. We rely on a lot of immigrants who have come to this country who have been part of NASA's success over the decades. What do you make when you hear the president talk about the kind of rhetoric we're hearing about immigrants and countries beyond our borders in terms of how difficult that makes your job? What do you say to your employees at NASA?
So know this, when we think about space exploration, remember what in the 1960s, this was a contest of great powers, the United States of America against the Soviet Union. And the goal was, of course, to put an American flag on the world, on the moon, to demonstrate to the world that we had technological superiority, that we had a political and an economic system that would survive. Interestingly, after we achieved that objective, Russia reached out to the United States and said, hey, we want to partner. 1975, the Apollo-Soyuz program came together, and we were living and working together in space. Then we had the Shuttle-Mir program, living and working together in space. And even today, 20 years on the International Space Station. So know this, space has the ability to transcend geopolitics. And in fact, it has the ability to transcend even domestic politics. NASA is very fortunate. We have bipartisan support, ultimately because people see it for what it is, that this is about humanity going further than we've ever gone before, and it's all of humanity.
Do you condemn the rhetoric that we hear from the president about immigration and immigrants to this country?
I want to be clear.
Yeah.
What I do as a NASA administrator is science. I don't get into the politics. I stay away from the politics. My job is to dispassionately gather the science and share it with the entire world.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.